Senior North Korean officers have reportedly moved to the front lines in Russia, according to South Korea's intelligence agency. President Yoon shared information with NATO and spoke with his Ukrainian counterpart Zelensky over the phone, given the gravity of the matter. The U.S. has finalized curbs on American investments in Chinese chips, AI, and quantum computing, citing security concerns. With the election just 7 days away in the U.S., Harris and Trump continue exchanging denunciations and clash over a range of issues, among which is a chip subsidy bill. It's October 29th, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. We start with details from a briefing to lawmakers by intelligence officials who touched upon the likelihood of North Korean generals being deployed to front lines in support of Russia's warfare against Ukraine. They suggest many of dispatched troops appear young. Our correspondent Kim Jong-un has the latest.
The National Intelligence Service has provided an update on North Korea's troop deployment to Russia. In a closed-door briefing to the National Assembly Intelligence Committee on Tuesday, the NIS reported on ongoing troop transfers to Russia, including the potential movement of senior officers to the front lines. The NIS also gave details particularly regarding soldiers seen in recent videos. Lee Sung-kwon, People Power Party Vice Chairperson of the National Assembly Intelligence Committee, explained that in North Korea, military service begins at the age of 18. He added that some of the soldiers deployed to the Storm Corps are in their late teens, while most are in their early 20s. He added that although they may appear young, these soldiers have undergone the required combat training for their roles. Therefore, their combat capabilities should not be underestimated. The Storm Corps is known to be one of North Korea's elite special forces units. However, the NIS pointed out that the unfamiliar terrain of modern warfare, as seen in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, presents challenges for these North Korean troops who lack experience in such conflicts. The officials then added that it's still hard to tell the exact number of troops being moved to the Kursk region, but that the total number of deployment is being estimated at around 10,900. The NIS also disclosed that Russian forces have been teaching over 100 military terms to North Korean troops, terms such as on your mark and fire. However, reports indicate communication problems as many North Korean soldiers are struggling with the Russian language. The NIS also warned of possible upcoming provocations by North Korea.
North Korea is preparing to launch a new reconnaissance satellite, reportedly resolving technical issues from a failed attempt in May with assistance from Russia. While the situation remains fluid, there are indications the North may consider a seventh nuclear test after the U.S. presidential election.
North Korea and Russia are reportedly also ramping up economic cooperation, especially in minerals, with covert deals likely to bypass sanctions after signing a new partnership treaty in June. NIS estimates that over 4,000 North Korean workers have been sent to Russia this year. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Seoul and the West share related information as they continue to closely monitor the military collaboration between Pyongyang and Moscow. Washington warns of consequences if troops enter combat. Woo Soo-young has this report.
South Korea and the United States say North Korea has sent at least 10,000 troops to Russia to fight in Ukraine, as NATO also warns the soldiers could quickly advance to the front lines of the biggest conflict in Europe since the Second World War. On Monday, Pentagon spokesperson Sabrina Singh said Pyongyang has sent about 10,000 troops to Russia to train and fight in Ukraine within the next several weeks, a significantly higher number than the 3,000 estimated by the White House last week. Singh said some North Korean troops have already moved closer to Ukraine, appearing to head for the Kursk border region, where Russian forces have struggled to push back against the Ukrainian incursion. She also said if the troops enter combat, there would be no limits on the use of US-provided weapons. The spokesperson's remarks came just hours after NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte confirmed that some North Korean units were already in the Kursk region, deeming the development a significant escalation. Rutte had been briefed by a South Korean delegation of military and intelligence officials in Brussels. who said the deployment of North Korean soldiers has been speeding up, with Kim Jong-un, a high-ranking army official close to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, also sent to Russia. The first deputy director of Seoul's National Intelligence Service, Hong Jang-won, said since the disclosure of North Korea and Russia's military cooperation, it appears the two sides are working impatiently to move an estimated 12,000 troops, with some already dispatched to the Kursk region. President Yoon Suk-yeol on Monday held a phone call with the NATO Secretary General, saying he hopes NATO will strengthen its solidarity with Seoul and increase efforts to monitor and block illegal exchanges between Pyongyang and Moscow. Rutte thanked the South Korean leader for swiftly sending a delegation of military intelligence officials to brief NATO member states on the situation and expressed hope to keep sharing battlefield-related information and coordinate response measures. Yoon also talked on the phone with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, warning North Korean troops could move to the front lines at a swifter pace than anticipated. He called for the immediate withdrawal of North Korean troops and an end to the collaboration between Pyongyang and the Kremlin, warning that South Korea would actively implement countermeasures. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky warned North Korea may soon have as many as 12,000 soldiers in Russia and called for weapons and a clear plan to prevent North Korea's expanded involvement. So far, Russia has neither directly confirmed nor denied that it is hosting North Korean soldiers, but has said it is up to Moscow and Pyongyang on how they implement their new security treaty reached in June. The US Pentagon says the North Korea-Russia axis is likely to be discussed when South Korean Defense Minister Kim Jong-un meets his US counterpart Lloyd Austin on Wednesday in Washington, D.C. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
And South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol today held phone talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss the involvement of North Korean military forces in Russia's invasion of Ukraine. According to the presidential office, Yoon said that South Korea will not sit idly by Pyongyang and Moscow's military collusion and vowed to take effective step-by-step response measures. Yoon also warned of the dangers that may arise from North Korean soldiers' real war experience gained through the war in Ukraine. Zelensky said the two sides agreed to strengthen intelligence and expertise exchanges and intensify contacts at all levels, especially the highest, in order to develop countermeasures and an action strategy and to address the escalation. North Korea's top diplomat, meanwhile, is in Russia amid mounting international criticism over the regime's deployment of troops to aid the Kremlin's war in Ukraine. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji has more.
North Korea's foreign minister, Choi Sun-hee, has visited Moscow for the second time in 6 weeks. The North State media KCNA said Tuesday that she left Pyongyang International Airport on Monday without further elaborating how long she'll be in Russia or the purpose of the visit. Choi visited Russia last month to take part in a global forum, and she also traveled to Moscow in January, where she met with Russian President Vladimir Putin. South Korea's intelligence agency said in a parliamentary session on Tuesday that Choi is believed to have held talks on sending more troops to Russia.
North Korean Foreign Minister Choi Sun-hee went to Russia on Monday, October 28th. The National Intelligence Service believes there were follow-up discussions regarding additional troop deployment and reciprocal measures, so it's utilizing all available resources to find out the details of these talks.
Experts also say that Choi likely discussed or plans to discuss the specific details of North Korean troops in Russia, such as where they'll be stationed, what they will get in return, and how Pyongyang and Moscow will jointly respond to criticism from the international community. And it's widely believed that she's expected to hold talks on Kim Jong-un's possible visit to Moscow to meet with Putin.
Since Putin visited North Korea in June, Kim Jong-un will likely visit Russia in return. And if that's the case, Kim's visit to Russia could happen in the first half of next year, after the U.S. presidential election. So it's likely that the North Korean foreign minister will have candid discussions on these issues.
Last week, Kremlin spokesperson said there is a possibility that Kim Jong-un could visit Moscow next year, noting that high-level exchanges are always taking place with Pyongyang as its close neighbor. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
The NIS underlines that the North is beefing up its security for leader Kim Jong-un against possible assassination attempts. Meanwhile, his daughter's status appears to have been elevated as well. Choi Min-jung with the details.
North Korea appears to be raising its level of security in anticipation of a possible assassination of its leader Kim Jong-un. During a parliamentary audit on Tuesday, the National Assembly's Intelligence Committee announced the National Intelligence Service's recent findings.
Kim Jong-un's public activities this year have increased by 110 times, or about 60% compared to last year. And North Korea has been raising its security level by operating communications jamming vehicles and drone detection equipment in anticipation of possible attempts to kill Kim Jong-un.
Meanwhile, the NIS also believes that the status of Kim's daughter, known as Kim Ju-ae, has recently been upgraded after being spotted being accompanied by the North Korean leader's powerful sister Kim Yo-jong, as well as the regime's foreign minister.
Kim Ju-ae has been escorted by Kim Yo-jong and assisted by Choi Son-hee, partially elevating her status.
The elevated status comes amid growing speculation that Kim Ju-ae will succeed Kim Jong-un. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
The U.S. has hammered out a final framework of restrictions on American investment in Chinese advanced technology. Lee Soo-jin covers the implications of these measures for Korea and more.
The U.S. government's new investment controls targeting China are expected to have a limited impact on the South Korean economy. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy announced in a statement on Tuesday that this was because the rules that aim to restrict American investment in advanced technology in countries of concern only include mainland China and the special administrative regions of Hong Kong and Macau. The rules finalized by the U.S. Treasury Department on Monday local time restrict American transactions involving advanced technology, such as semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing that could threaten U.S. national security. The rules, which will take effect on January 2, 2025, are designed to implement President Joe Biden's executive order signed in August last year. The regulations aim to prevent China from enjoying intangible benefits that are believed to come with U.S. financial support, including enhanced standing and prominence, managerial assistance, investment and talent networks, and market access. Noting that advanced technologies are fundamental to the development of next-generation military surveillance, intelligence, and certain cybersecurity applications, Assistant Secretary for Investment Security Paul Rosen said the Biden-Harris administration is committed to keeping these out of the hands of those who may use them to threaten U.S. security. The Treasury is also setting up a global transactions office to oversee the new rule, and violators will be fined up to around $368,000 or twice the value of the prohibited transaction, whichever is greater. Moving forward, the South Korean government pledged that it will analyze the impact that the rules have on the economy from various angles by closely communicating with domestic businesses and experts. One expert echoed the government's assessment of the impact that it will have on Korean companies.
So I think everybody expected the strengthening of restrictions, and most Korean firms, I think, have prepared for this, so they would not have too much problems.
He added that these rules nevertheless indicate that domestic companies will have to be more mindful of exports they make to China in the future. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
As campaigning becomes fiercer in the U.S., Kamala Harris has denounced comments made at a Trump rally by a participant who degraded Puerto Rico. In the meantime, the two candidates show differing views on providing chip subsidies. Cha Yun-kyung brings the latest.
U.S. Vice President and Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris has blessed the comments made at a New York Trump rally on Sunday, disparaging Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage.
And that's why people are exhausted with him. That's why people who formerly have supported Donald Trump, have voted for him, are supporting me, voting for me.
Donald Trump's campaign says the comments did not reflect the former president's views. As campaigning gets fiercer between the two candidates, the race remains neck and neck, with poll results among registered voters nationally showing a 1 percentage point gap within the margin of error of 1.3%. According to analysis by 538, national polling shows 48% of voters support Vice President Kamala Harris and 46.7% support former President Donald Trump. Meanwhile, during an interview, former President Trump criticized the Chips and Science Act, saying he will impose high tariffs on foreign companies who invest in the U.S. so that they will come and build semiconductor factories for free. This means that Trump would use tariffs to compel foreign semiconductor companies, such as Samsung Electronics, SK Hynix, and TSMC, to build factories in the U.S. instead of providing subsidies. On the other hand, Vice President Harris visited Michigan-based manufacturer Hemlock Semiconductor, where the Biden-Harris administration provided proposed direct funding of $325 million made under the bipartisan Chips and Science Act. Vice President Harris' visit to Michigan reflects the administration's support for battleground states known as Bidenomics, focusing on the Chips and Science Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. 차윤경, Arirang News.
In the Middle East, Israel is banning a UN relief agency for Palestinian refugees from operating in its territory, as well as in areas under its control. He explains.
On Monday, Israel's parliament passed a bill banning the United Nations Relief and Works Agency from operating on Israeli territory and areas under Israel's control. The UNRWA, providing life-saving services in war-torn Gaza, was established in 1949 to provide humanitarian aid to Palestinian refugees in the West Bank, Gaza, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a statement about the legislation, reiterated his claims that UNRWA employees are involved in Hamas-related terrorist activities. In response, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed deep concern, stating there is no viable alternative to the UNRWA, warning that the legislation could have devastating consequences for Palestinians. The legislation is set to take effect in 90 days, further jeopardizing an already strained aid distribution process for Gazan civilians. The UNRWA's former General Counsel said on Tuesday that Israel's move represents a broader attack on the UN system, calling for a strong response. The move has also drawn worldwide condemnation from countries including Australia, Belgium, Jordan, Ireland, Norway, Slovenia, Spain, Switzerland, and the UK. World leaders have described it as intolerable, illegal, and nothing less than collective punishment. This decision by Israel comes despite U.S. State Department concerns that there's no substitute for the UNRWA amid the ongoing crisis, and a statement from foreign ministers of 7 countries, including South Korea, opposing Israel's actions. Meanwhile, Israel's attacks in Lebanon are intensifying. According to Lebanon's health ministry, at least 60 people were killed in Israeli strikes on Monday night across 12 areas in Baalbek, eastern Lebanon, including 2 children. Nearly 60 others were reported injured. The Israeli military's offensive in Gaza continues, with reports of at least 7 Palestinians killed in northern Gaza and 10 in the central region. Additionally, reports stated that the Israeli military set fire to a school run by the UNRWA in the Zabalia refugee camp. Since the onset of the Middle East conflict, the death toll in Gaza has surpassed 43,000, while in Lebanon it has exceeded 2,700. Hee, Arirang News.
Today, October 29th, marks a grim anniversary in Korea. 2 years ago, more than 150 lives were lost during a crowd crush at an alley in Seoul's Itaewon district. Now, in memory of the victims, a solemn ceremony was held at the parliament. Our correspondent Shin Ha-young reports.
It's been 2 years since the unimaginable tragedy in Itaewon, where a crowd crush resulted in the loss of 159 lives. To remember those who perished, lawmakers gathered at the National Assembly on Tuesday, along with about 120 family members of the victims of the disaster. This is the first time the Assembly has officially hosted a memorial ceremony for a humanitarian disaster.
Protecting victims' rights, uncovering the truth, and preventing tragedies are essential steps toward creating a better future. The National Assembly is committed to leading this effort.
Along with the photos of the victims, the walls of the venue displayed a message that said, "We still have names to remember. We will not forget the 159 who tragically lost their young lives." Other memorial ceremonies took place across the nation, including in front of Itaewon Station, to offer prayers for the victims and condolences to their families and survivors. Meanwhile, during a cabinet meeting the same day, President Yoon Suk-yeol emphasized the importance of reviewing crowd safety measures.
안타깝게 돌아가신 분들의 명복을 빌며 슬픔을 안고 살아가시는 유가족 분들께도 깊은 위로의 말씀을 드립니다. 관계 부처는 클라우드 매니지먼트를 비롯해서 다중 안전 체계를 점검하고 보완하는 데 만전을 기해 주기 바랍니다.
신하영, 아리랑 뉴스.
On the baseball ground, the Kia Tigers beat the Samsung Lions Monday evening to win their 12th Korean Series title. Lee Seung-jae has the highlights.
Going into Game 5 of the 2024 Korean Series on Monday, the Kia Tigers had never lost a championship series, with 11 out of 11 previous Korean Series appearances ending in victory. After Monday night's game, Kia made it 12 for 12. Down 5-1 at one point in the game, the Tigers stormed back to beat the Samsung Lions 7-5 to win their first KBO League title since 2017. What made Monday's win even more special was that the Tigers were able to clinch the title in front of a sold-out home crowd for only the second time in their 12 championship wins. The Gwangju-based team now becomes the first professional baseball team to win a Korean Series title in 5 different decades: the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, 2010s, and now 2020s. While the Kia Tigers boast some of the best power hitters in the league, it wasn't the power hitters that helped them to victory. The 165-centimeter infielder Kim Sun-bin was named the Korean Series MVP after going 10 for 17 in the 5 games. He beat his teammate Kim Tae-gun 46-45 in media voting. While the Kia Tigers' 2024 season started off with their manager Kim Jong-un getting fired over a bribery allegation, Lee Bum-ho, a Kia Tigers legend himself, took over the managerial role. The Kia Tigers cruised through the regular season, finishing first in the regular season and getting a direct bye to this Korean Series. And with no back-to-back Korean Series winners since the 2015-2016 Doosan Bears, the Tigers look to change that next season and defend their title. But for now, it's celebration time for the 12-time champions. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Today, cloudy skies continued across the country. In some Midwestern regions and on Jeju Island, there was some light rain in the earlier part of the day. From tomorrow, clear skies will be revealed nationwide again. For the time being, the daily temperature range is expected to be large. It's easy to catch a cold in these conditions, so please take care of your health. By tomorrow, storm winds of around 50 meters per second will blow around the southern coast and Jeju Island. You'd better check any items that could get blown away. Tomorrow, Chuncheon, Daejeon, and Daegu will start off at 10 degrees Celsius, Busan 14, Jeju 17 degrees. Highs will move up to 22 in Gwangju, Daegu, and Jeju, Busan 24 degrees. Autumn conditions will continue throughout this week around the country. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.